each for questions. I'm going to begin with myself. Mr. Hunter, very interesting information that you have provided. In your testimony, you state that given the challenges that the seafood industry in Alaska is facing, President Trump's executive order comes at a critical time. Broadly, can you share your perspective on how the executive order can help the seafood industry in Alaska?
Madam Chair, I believe the term equaling fair trade will open the door to making things fairer for us. We've got a large concern with what the Russians are doing. My understanding is they're increasing their fleet. They play by different rules than we do. We're heavily regulated. We've got rules we need to follow. If we could level the playing field, I think being competitive with Russia down the road in the future is in our best interest.
What other factors should Congress be looking at to further encourage fishing and seafood in the United States?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Sure. Are there other factors or ideas that Congress should be looking to help your industry?
Well, we've got many challenges, and one of the biggest challenges we have is bycatch in our region. It's an ongoing issue. We struggle locally with the salmon issue, and I think Congress, if they were able to fund more into research into what the causes are, I think that would be a great impact to our region.
Okay. Mr. Delano, I agree with you about overregulation in this country, and not only does it affect your industry, it affects many industries across the board, but I do know that the fishing and lobstering industry have been hit especially hard. The lack of adequate data is directly linked to how many fish or how much seafood, how many lobster you can catch. And this executive order from Mr. Trump makes it clear that NOAA needs to reprioritize the critical work such as stock assessments. What can NOAA do differently under this administration to ensure that, first of all, the data is in fact collected and that it is accurate and reliable?
Thank you for the question. I believe, some of this has been mentioned, that it's important that we continue the work that needs to be done to assure that fisheries are permitted, and that is through surveys that are existing and continuing those time series. It's important to have the funding to do that. But I think that the root of a majority of our problems comes from the way that the data is collected, and that could be very much improved by involving industry in the data collection methods. Fishermen know how to catch fish very well. Scientists know how to handle the information and to develop conclusions about what's going on. They need to work together. That is how we move forward. Until we do that, our fishing industry is going to continue to be crippled.
Well, I don't think that you can actually discuss the future of the right whale without discussing the impact of the offshore wind farms, yet our federal regulatory agencies have turned a blind eye and refused to address that issue. But this is one area that I believe that we need to collect additional data. Mr. Delano, would you agree with that?
I agree 100%.
Okay. What is your what would you recommend in terms of what we can do to actually assess the right whale situation and make sure that we can protect it?
I think it is important to look into non-invasive tagging. As I mentioned in my testimony, there have been examples with southern right whales where they've actually discovered calving grounds as a result, and they've discovered areas where they didn't know they were. We've had observations of right whales in Europe, and we've had right whales that have disappeared for a number of years that we thought, may have died, that have actually just this year, some showed up that hadn't been seen in a long time, and the last time they were seen, they were injured. And so there's a disconnect, there's something going on. If we're gonna come up with draconian measures, we need the hard facts of where these whales are.
I agree with you. I think we need additional data. Mr. Bellavance, the Magnuson-Stevens Act requires each regional fishery management council to submit multi-year research priorities to NOAA. The act also directs the Secretary of Commerce to publish multi-year research priorities that reflect the council's input. Given your experience with the council system, how important is this process, and are there areas of improvement?
Thank you, Madam Chair, for the question. Well, first, I think our research priorities are very important. I think the council's put a lot of time into developing them and offering them to NOAA as guidance for what would help us do our job as managers. So anytime there's a compromise to the level of research that can be accomplished throughout any given year, it's going to impact our decision-making process. So I think it's extremely important.
Thank you. I yield back. I'm out of time, and so I am going to call, the chair recognizes Mr. Huffman for 5 minutes of questioning.
Thank you, Madam Chair.